Let's jump into my beginner's guide for Soulmask. The first thing that I want to go over is crafting, both in your inventory and on the bench. I think this is very important. There are a lot of different quick interactions that you can do to make crafting seamless. Let's start with crafting in your inventory. You have these different options on the right hand side. That is your crafting ability. You can go into the different specifications. So if I want building items or armor or weapons or tools, you just click these items at the top. You can always search for something. So if I type well in here, you'll see that we come up with the well, and it's going to tell you exactly what you need in order to craft that. Let's say you want to know a recipe for something that you don't craft in your own inventory. Maybe you want to summon the ape and you're not sure what to take up there with you to do that. So you can type ape in here and then go to other crafting blueprints, and that's going to show you everything that is related to the ape. You would then scroll down to this one, and that'll tell you exactly what you need to bring with you when you go to fight the ape. Into crafting, there are a couple of quick keys that you should know. So you just have to put your cursor over something and press E to craft one. If you put your cursor over whatever you want to craft and press F, you're going to craft everything that you can based on the resources that are in your inventory. You can always stop that crafting by pressing X, and it'll craft the last one and then finish. If you are crafting multiple things in your inventory and you say, well, I want the thatch foundations first, I don't want the thick rope to be what's being prioritized right now, you can just drag things up or down in the queue in order to craft a different item. If you have items that you were able to craft in your inventory, some of those can be broken down for the base resources. So if I highlight over these linen pants and I press V, that will uncraft that item. There's two ways to split items in your inventory. You can shift click an item and that's going to split it in half, or as close to half as you can get. Or you can highlight over the item and press S for precision splitting. If you need to move items very quickly from one inventory to another, simply highlight over the item and press Q, and that will move those items into the other inventory. If you want to drop an item out of your inventory because you simply don't want it, or you want to give that to a friend, you can just highlight over the item and press X to drop it on the floor. It will then become a package with an amount of time linked to it until it disappears. Now, these shortcuts also work on a bench, so if I want all the planks that I can craft with the resources that I have on my character or in the bench, I press F and it will craft all those resources. You can assign a tribesman to the bench by clicking this button or pressing P and then choosing a tribesman out of the list. If I want a tribesman to come over and craft the items in the bench, there's two ways I can do that. I can press F and then I can press R to get off the bench, and the tribesman will then come over and finish that crafting as long as they're not doing anything else. If you look at the red box there, it will tell you if there's an issue with crafting that. There's also something called quest crafting, and this is where you can get really deep into the automation for your base. So if we highlight over the item that we want and we press D, that creates a quest crafting queue. We can press this cogwheel right here. We can then press the crafting circulation. That's going to craft this many, and then we can set it for a number of hours. So if I want them to make 100 planks every 12 hours, this is how I would set it up. And then click confirm. The background will turn purple and you'll know that that's a circulating craft. Again, if you are ever in here and you want something else crafted instead, you could just drag that up to the spot where you want it, and that will change what's being crafted in that bench. If you want items to stay in the bench, you don't want your tribesmen taking them to chests, you just check this box right here and everything that they craft will stay in that box. I recommend, however, that you set up your boxes to have specific items stored in them. You can do that by pressing L and then using the drop down to pick what items should be stored in that area. All you have to do is select it and then hit escape to save it. But if you want to get even more in detail, you can select certain items to be stored in that chest. Some recipes have multiple items that you can use in order to craft it. So if we look at the bonfire, the required materials are branch. The additional materials are then either stone or flint and log or hardwood. If at any point in time you decide that you don't want to use specific materials, you can go into the bench and tell it only to use the materials that you want to. By unchecking flint and hardwood, I know that the bonfire will never be crafted with my flint or my very expensive hardwood. And this can get very important with things like charcoal. You don't want to be making charcoal out of hardwood or premium hardwood, and I would say even logs. I simply use branch in order to make charcoal. Once you have your boxes set up where they have preferences, certain items that can be stored in them, you can walk up to the box and just press G to deposit something into that box. If you have a box that will allow you to put whatever item you want in there and you don't want certain things going out of your inventory when you press G, what you need to do is actually set them with your preference on your character inventory. So setting the preference in your character inventory will make it so that those items never leave your inventory, even if the receptacle can accept those items. And to uncheck everything for the receptacle, you just click all items, and then it's easy to go in and choose the specific items that you want stored in that box. If you're looking for certain items, you can always type the item in up here, and that will reduce the list so that you can then easily go through and pick the items that you want to have in there. So if I just want this chest to only accept the ingots, then I can just go in here, type ingot, and then choose all those ingot items. If at any point in time you don't want tribesmen messing with the box, you can set them to not take items from here, and you can set them to not store items there. Repairing items is easy. If you craft it in your own inventory, you can just repair it with those resources in your inventory. However, if it's made in a bench, you need to take it back over to that bench and repair it in that bench. If you have a tribesperson assigned to that bench and you click F to repair, they will grab the resources, bring them over to that table, and then repair that item. I highly recommend when you're having them repair items, you should check this box so that they don't take your item and put it in a chest. There is also a bench that is just for repairing. So if I put this item in here and I tell a tribesman to take care of it, I can just press spacebar to have it repaired. This is going to repair the item and put it in the bench's inventory right over here. And you can see the tribesperson has repaired that item and placed it back in the bench. When you're going after higher level resources, you want to be using the right tool. A stone pick used on any ore is just going to give you stone. You will not actually receive the other ore that you should. You want to make sure that you have at least bone or better in order to get both tin and copper. If you don't have a bone pick or better, you will not gain those resources. One of the most important things to keep your base alive and running is that you set a tribesperson to manage your campfire. You can see that Throat Punch is managing the campfire. What that means is as long as there are resources to burn in the campfire, that tribesperson is going to make sure those resources are in there. Now you can also choose the acceptable fuel types on that bench as well. So if we don't want thatch going in there or tree bark or our premium woods, we can simply uncheck those boxes and she will only use branch or logs to keep it enabled. Your bonfire is what keeps your base from decaying. Let's talk a little bit about bonfires and what they do for your base. The bonfire is what claims an area for your base to be built. Anything inside the territory of the bonfire is going to be protected from decay as long as your bonfire is lit. It is very important that you have a roof over your bonfire because if it rains and your bonfire goes out, decay will start on your base. I also want to show you the upgrade system for different things in the game. We're going to upgrade the bonfire, but you can do this with chests and building pieces. So you can see I have a bronze pit bonfire in my inventory. If I walk up to the stone bonfire here and I hold E on it, I can just select upgrade. Then I'll get this list of items that I can upgrade it to, and I'm just going to select the one that's in my inventory. Clicking that will replace the bonfire in my inventory and upgrade this bonfire to the better one. Additionally, when you upgrade your bonfire, you do get new and better fuel sources to put in the bonfire. So at the bronze level, you are able to use charcoal to light your bonfire. And there are bonfires for every level. So the stone, the bronze, the iron, the steel, and then the fine steel. Fires are the location where you are going to respawn. If you place a fire out in the open and it is exposed and it starts to rain, the fire will go out. So it's best to set those under a roof on top of a foundation for your adventures when you think you might be in a situation where you could die and need to respawn at that location. Campfires are essentially bedrolls, and that's how you're going to respawn in areas where you're adventuring. Do not place a bonfire in an area where you're going to adventure, because that bonfire that you place is going to block other players from being able to put down a campfire. One of the earliest locations you're going to come across is this Barbarian Barrack. Now, this Barbarian Barrack has enemies that can be up to level 20. So you want to be careful when you're coming in here. I recommend to come here once you're in the Beast Hide armor and the bone gear. In order to deter an enemy and make them yours, you have to get their health down to a certain point. It will then tell you that they can be deterred, and you need to walk up to them and press E in order to do that. To deter an enemy, you do have to have mask energy, so make sure that you are using the sunstone crystals in order to buff up your mask energy. All weapons have different attacks that can be done. There are jump attacks that can be done. There's a special move that you can do with F. And then you can also hold the button down and do a special attack as well. So holding the button down with these does a charged attack. However, if I hold the button down with the gauntlets, it just does a barrage of punches. So play around with the different weapons, both just pressing the attack button and holding down the attack button. At this Barbarian Barrack Flint Tribe camp, there are resources that you should get right outside. Early on, these are going to help you. So there are crops that you can harvest. You can see we have chili here, we have cotton here, but you can also find pumpkins, corn, and tomatoes at this location. Parrying is an extremely important part of the game. You want to get your parry timing down, and if you can get that parry timing down, you can do some really cool combinations with it. So you can see I have the parry there, and that allows me to do an attack that is absolutely brutal on that enemy. If you go into a dying state like I just did here, you don't want to move. If you don't move and the enemies leave you alone, you can start to heal. You can use a bandage while you're on the ground. You will lose some health, but then you will also start healing. You'll then return to that feign death state where you're faking that you're dead and your health will continue to rise. You can also be rescued by another tribes member or even a follower if they are not engaged in battle at that point in time. Sometimes it takes multiple bandages in order to get up off the ground. Your bandages will heal you over an amount of time, so make sure that buff goes away before you apply another bandage. There is some stealth in game, and you can engage in that by walking up behind a character, waiting for the icon to appear, and then just attacking. That is going to give a brutal attack to that enemy, and that is going to help you get through some of the harder content. If you are in this area and the bonfire here ends up being lit, you are going to get attacked by multiple enemies coming to help this location. You can see they just spawned in outside there. That can be a lot of trouble for you if you're in here, so I recommend attacking these signal fires in order to get it so that they can't light it anymore. And you can see at this level just how quickly that can be devastating. There are multiple ways to respawn in the game. You can respawn as a tribesman, or you can pick your own campfire, or you can pick areas around the map that you've unlocked to spawn at. If you decide to respawn as one of your tribesmen at any point in time, your character is going to disappear until that tribesman either dies or you have the mysterious stone table to recall your body. So be very careful when you decide to respawn as another tribesman. Your death package has a half an hour timer, so you have half an hour to get back and get your loot. One of the perks underneath the mask that I recommend getting as soon as possible is the quality assessment. The quality assessment is going to allow you to press and hold Q and look at any person or any animal and check its quality. You can see it tells me this is a master warrior. He has a red icon, so he is legendary. He's from the Flint tribe. And then additionally, it tells me where his stats are placed. So he has strength, physique, perception, agility, and endurance. And this is a good way to get an idea of whether the tribesperson you are wanting to tame is decent or not. You can also zoom in this mode like that, so you can get right in there, or you can also mark them by right-clicking on your mouse. That's going to put an icon above their head. And this is extremely useful when you are looking for crafters or porters so that you know which ones you don't want to kill and you want to make sure are deterred. Once you've deterred somebody, it is very important that you take broth or another liquid soup and put it in their inventory and use it. That is going to increase their hydration and their satiation bar. So we'll do that with both of these guys, and that is going to help them stay alive through the taming process. It's also not a bad idea if they're low health like this one is to go into their inventory, place a bandage, and then use that so that they can start healing. You can see her health bar is now going up. Once they reach recognition 500, you can interact with them and they will become your follower. If you're ever wondering about your follower, go into tab and then click on this icon here, go down to that follower and then look at their character stats. You can look at their innate talents here and see what innate talents they have. You should also look at their proficiencies and look for what they may be good in. Essentially, you can look for the class and style of play that you want to play in, or you can look for a class and style of play that you're currently not playing in so that you can switch up your style for different engagements. 120 is the cap for bonuses that you can get in any of these proficiencies. So anytime you find a tribesman that has any proficiency over level 120 or at level 120, it's a good idea to keep them around. Another thing that you can do with tribesmen to increase the speed of their taming or their recognition gain is to put them in a bed. That will increase the speed of how quickly they gain recognition as long as they're satiated and hydrated. Now you can do this by bringing them back to your base, or you can bring beds with you and set up a little outpost in an area where you want to tame a lot of tribesmen. You can see this tribesman has gauntlets at level 120, which means he can gain all of the bonuses in the list for gauntlets. If you want a tribesman to follow you, hard press E and then click deploy. You're then going to get a menu on the left-hand side of your screen there, and you can tell them to follow by pressing F2. If you want them to attack whatever they see, that is F4. If you want them to just assist you in fights, that's going to be F5. And if you don't want them doing anything and just staying away from combat, that's going to be F6. If at some point in time you're fighting alongside your tribesmen and you fall to the ground, you can use F7 to have them come and rescue you. If you don't want them following you anymore, you can press F8. If there's a specific target that you want them to attack, you can always use F1 while pointing at that target to tell them to take it out. Once you have visited one of these yellow ruins and unlocked control, you can take over your tribesman's body and play as them by hard pressing E while looking at them and then clicking on control. That's going to allow you to play as your tribesperson. If you need to remove the fog of war, you're going to be looking for these icons right here. Those are the scout icons that will remove the fog in that area. When you get to the area where the scout is, you want to use your Q ability to see which one the scout is. That is the enemy that you want to deter in order to unlock this location. I highly recommend that you are careful at first and see what the enemies are taking for damage from you before you go in to attack the scout. You can see I can do multiple attacks on this enemy, so I don't have to worry too much about killing it before I deter it. You do want to make sure that if you have a tribesperson following you, that they are not going to kill that scout. It looks like she's having a pretty rough time as it is, and we can deter this enemy. Now that we've deterred the enemy, it's okay if the scout dies. We have unlocked that section of the map. Now, if you want to find every single question mark that's on the map, you need to continue to come back to these scout camps and deter those scouts. Every time you come to those scouts, they will give you more information about what's in their section of the map. The last bit of information that scout is going to give you is about a tablet that you can read in the area. Those tablets are going to give you lore information and give you tech points that you can spend to unlock more knowledge. If at any point in time you make it to a scout and you get their health low and it does not say that you can deter them, that's because you know all the information about their area. Soulmask has a morale system in it which will drain over time through work and battles. And when you have low morale on your character, it will reduce and cap your carrying capacity and your stamina. In order to raise this, it recommends going to a bed. However, if you are playing as your main character, not as a tribesperson with low morale, you can simply respawn. So if you go into your escape menu and you click respawn, that's going to kill your character and you can then respawn at the bonfire near you. That is going to fill your morale level. When you die, you do need to go back into your inventory and set all of your preferences again for all of the items you want to keep in your inventory. And if we run over to a bed and interact with it, and you can see our morale is full. This will cost you a bandage or two to heal back up, however it is much faster than sleeping in a bed. Crafted in your inventory is a wooden construction hammer, and I recommend crafting one of these if you're going to be building. For building, if you place an item incorrectly and you don't have a construction hammer, you need to look at the item and hold E, and then you can retrieve that item. You can see there's a timer that is associated with retrieving it, and it takes quite some time. However, if you have a building hammer, you can see there are multiple options at the bottom of the screen there. So pressing the middle mouse button will instantly retrieve that item. Now in Soulmask, you need these green crystals in order to upgrade your mask abilities. You're going to want to find these ancient ruins around the map and kill the enemies that are in the area. Once you've dispatched those enemies, you can simply go over and find the chest that is going to house the green crystals. It will be inside one of these ruins. There it is right there. And if we open that chest, you'll see it has some good resources for us. The main resources you want to get out of here are the green crystals and the sunstone. The green crystals upgrade your mask, and the sunstone is what gives you energy to use with your mask. When upgrading your mask, the first option you want to get is here, and then that's going to allow you to get control right here. Control can be unlocked on the map in these yellow ruin areas. If you want to have more tribespeople, you want to upgrade connection enhancement, so when it's fully upgraded, you can have 18 tribespeople. I then recommend unlocking transfer so that you can get to the deter enhance. Deter enhance is going to speed up the recognition gain for the followers that you deter, and that's going to make it so that you can tame them and have them be yours even faster. Upgrading this also reduces the amount of mask energy used to deter an enemy. Sync connection will also increase the speed of the knocked out enemy's recognition gain. The next items in the mask that I recommend getting are going to be Combat Instinct, then Perception Enhancement, and Quality Assessment. Minerals Probe is really nice because it will highlight the rarer minerals around the map. Those are going to be clay, coal, iron, copper, tin, phosphorus, sulfate. All those items will be highlighted when using your Q ability if you have a Minerals Probe unlocked. I also highly recommend unlocking Mask Hardening as quickly as possible, and it can be upgraded 9 times. This is going to give you additional defense for head damage. When building your base, plan to build bigger than you expect to need to, and to have room to expand. There's a couple of reasons why you want to do this. One, you want to open the base up for pathing for your tribespeople. Additionally, there are a lot of benches, and those benches grow as you continue through the game. And then as you get into later game, some of the benches are absolutely enormous. If you want to speed through gaining proficiencies for your tribespeople, I recommend controlling them, and then in your mask tree, unlocking the memory unit for that crafting. That will give you increased proficiency growth in that particular thing. All of the mask perks that are associated with the auxiliary function module right here are going to increase the amount of proficiency gained by the mask wearer. So if you want to level someone up in cooking, you simply upgrade the cooking functionality as high as you can. It will go all the way up to 100% additional proficiency, and then you control that tribesperson and sit on that bench crafting those items so that their proficiency can increase faster. And the ones that I recommend going after early on are going to be kilning, weapon crafting, and armor crafting. Let's talk a little bit about leveling and where all your experience is going, because it goes to multiple places in your character. First of all, you have a character level, which is going to gain experience and allow you to spend stats in these different categories. Highlighting over them will tell you what that additional point is going to give you. You then have proficiencies, so anytime you're engaged in that specific task, you will be gaining experience towards proficiencies. You then also gain mask experience, and that's going to allow you to unlock the bottom row of perks for your mask. Lastly, you have awareness strength, and the awareness strength is what is linked to your knowledge and technology. Everything that you do, whether it's harvesting, crafting, or engaging in combat, is going to give you experience towards your awareness strength and experience towards your mask strength. I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. Don't be out of whack. There's another video on the screen right now that you can watch to support more of my content.